I'm the professional. You're the professional. You taught me stuff.
Hello, welcome to my studio and welcome to another edition of Art Success with me, Adelaide Damoah. Today's interview is with a really nice young man who's in my unit here at Second Floor Studios, Unit 0. His name is Jacob Eaton, and Jacob graduated in only 2012, so he's quite a young guy still, and has been working as an artist ever since graduation. He's been through some really tough times. I'm really impressed with this guy. He battled through homelessness to get to the point where he is consistently working as an artist. So Jacob describes himself as a minimalist artist because his work is minimal, really quite subtle, beautiful work. And he describes himself as somebody who is more process driven than being driven by the making of the work itself or any kind of medium that he uses. You'll know what I mean when you see his work. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. You've been a practicing artist since 2012, but you work part-time.
It's only recently been lucky enough to have such a kind of set routine. I guess the last year and a half I've been employed by a company called Arctic that represent young artists and rent and sell artwork to office spaces and hotels. So I'm their head technician, which has kind of freed me up to have a routine of getting to the studio 2-3 days a week. Prior to that I was kind of freelance to lots of different stuff. I do a bit of carpentry, landscape gardening, paint and decorating, gallery technician work.
Do you find that the work that you're doing outside of studio is staying within the art world? Do you find that that's helping you in any way?
It helps me massively. It's because it keeps you interested in that field. And I guess opportunities do arise from it, which is good. Getting into gallery technician stuff, I've since been given a job in Campbell College of Art, so now I work in my old university, which is lovely. You never quite think you'll be staff of your university, and when you first arrive there you think, oh, I'm an imposter, I don't know anything, and they just think I know something. But then actually you kind of realise that you have grown a lot since graduation, and that you're there for a reason, because they want your kind of skills. And then creating new friendships with students, and then kind of strengthening friendships that I've made with staff who used to teach me. I remember one of the tutors had a show in the Campbell Gallery, and I was kind of installing their work, and I'm talking about different ways of hanging it. And I said, what do you want to do? And they're like, oh, I don't know, you're the professional. And I think, oh my God, I'm the professional. You're the professional. You taught me stuff, and now I'm teaching you. So that's really nice. And from working at Camberwell, I've had the 2 exhibitions I had last year, and then the other group show I was invited in by one of the tutors at Camberwell, and that was actually in the No Format Gallery at Second Floor Studios. And my work was installed next to Dan Sturgis's work, who's the head of painting in Camberwell. So I was like, oh my God,
Really?
my painting's next to Dan's. This is amazing. So that was really lovely.
Do you think those opportunities came about because of the fact that you were working there, or do you think it would have happened anyway?
It wouldn't have happened anyway, because I guess it's like being in the right place at the right time. Yeah, at one point I did think, oh, have I just been invited in just because they know me and they feel uncomfortable not inviting me? But that's not the case, because I install like hundreds and hundreds of exhibitions, and no one's ever like, oh, are you an artist? Do you want to be in it? So that never happens. It only happened a couple of times. So it's more, it's just more because you're talking to them rather than that you're working near them.
Back to studio, do you sell work direct from the studio?
I have only ever sold postcards from the studio, so in the kind of anonymous postcard fundraiser they do at No Format Gallery. So I've not really sold work from overseas before. I hope to this year. Yeah, I think I had a lot, once I started making screen prints, which obviously screen prints are more affordable because they're in an edition, people were showing a lot more interest in them. But I think this year I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously. I might put my sales hat on a little bit more and get my screen prints kind of pre-cut and editioned and in archival sleeves, ready to take away.
How much would something like this be, for example?
3,000 plus VAT.
And what about your prints, screen prints?
They are £200 each, and then framed they are £400. But it's quite a nice frame. They're like box framed and shadow mounted. They look pretty tidy.
Are you represented by a gallery at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's quite new news. So I signed a contract a week ago.
Well done.
Yeah.
What
It's
they called?
GX Gallery in Camberwell.
And how did that come about?
Look, really, I sold a screen print to a good friend of mine to give to her brother. She gave it to her brother for her birthday, and he loved the print. He lives in Camberwell, and he went to get it framed at GX Gallery.
Oh.
And GX Gallery were like, "Oh, we love this work. Who made it?" And he's like, "Oh, it's this guy called Jacob Eaton. He studied at Camberwell." And they looked up my website, looked up my work. They all kind of looked at the framed piece, talking about it, and then they emailed me through my website. Yeah, I went and met them, took some paintings over, and they loved it.
How long have you been with Arctic, and how did you get
They
into that?
found me in my summer show and graduation.
Okay.
So they contacted me first because they liked my painting. That was actually my degree show piece. At the time of university, I made 100 of these things, and it was kind of on the cards of having loads and loads and loads of them all over the kind of your section of wall. But I was writing in my dissertation on presentation, how presentation changes the identity of the work. I actually decided just to hang this one piece on like a kind of 12-foot wall, just alone, stood there, because I thought it would be a bolder statement. And I think it was a good idea, because I got contacted by them, and then through the meeting and them starting to represent me, that's how it came about, me hanging work for them.
Can you remember when you sold your first piece and what it felt like?
Yeah, my first piece I ever sold was when I was in my second year, and I was making those frames, these kind of wooden frames.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was making those, and there was this lovely couple who were regulars at my cafe I worked at when I was a student. I was a duty manager of this deli in Greenwich. It's called Nevada Street Deli. It's now a sausage shop. They would come in every Sunday, and I'd make them coffee and talk to their son and stuff. I'd even babysit their son.
Oh.
And I'd always show them pictures of work I was making. And his wife loved these that I made. And I think it wasn't until a following year he was like, "Oh, Jake, I'd really love to buy some of this work from you." And I was like, "Well, I don't make them anymore, because kind of a month in art school is like a year now, because your work's constantly changing, rapid." So I was like, "I can give you another painting," because I had hundreds of paintings. "I'll give you a painting for free." He's like, "No, I want these. I'll pay for them." So I was like, "Oh." I kind of agreed a price in my head. I thought of how much you'd have to pay me to take a few days out of my kind of third year making all this work for my degree show. Told him the price, and he was like, "Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Let's do it." And then he gave me it all in cash, and I was like, "Oh my god, what the?" Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
And now they're on his mantelpiece, and they're still there now, so it just feels lovely.
Yeah.
Especially when you're a student and you kind of finding your feet, and then someone really kind of puts that faith in you, and who believes in you or believes in your kind of future.
What's the biggest challenge you've had to face since working properly as an artist, and how did you overcome it?
Being immensely poor and homeless.
Homeless?
Well, I wasn't homeless on the street, but I didn't have a home, so I was just living out of a bag, kind of
couch surfing.
Yeah, basically couch surfing friends, but I still had my studio. I still kept making work. Very, very poor times of kind of raiding your copper jar, which turns out to be the only kind of money you have, and then counting it all up and figuring out how much you can spend on food for the next month, and being like, right, I'll just eat rice and egg fried rice with frozen vegetables in it for the next month, and then I'll be okay. And then spending that food money on paint, and then being like, "Oh God, I gotta eat okay, I'll just eat the rice with some really horrible cheap eggs, or something like that to get some protein and carbs. So yeah, that was the hardest challenge, was that. And just being freelance and not having enough work coming through, and then also not giving up on that justification of making your work, because you're like, I need to make my work. I think the hardest thing is not giving up.
But how did you get through it? Because you obviously did. You're here. So
I don't know. It's like, I guess there's not really necessarily like a golden rule to get through it. I think there's multiple rules, but I think just not giving up and being strong-willed, talking to people as much as possible, so you don't feel alone. Because it's quite easy to feel really alone in that situation. And also not having too much pride of like, if you're kind of doing work, like freelance work, being open to kind of do any type of work. So whether you're being a man in a van or like labouring, shifting gravel to kind of get the money in.
What would you say was your biggest success to date since graduation to now, and how did you achieve it?
That's a big question.
I know.
Probably this studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the most proud of the studio. Absolutely love this studio. And yet keeping this and building like all the desk and the mezzanine and the spray booth and just kind of building it all and growing it to your like perfect studio, and then coming in and just sitting in here, and just it feels lovely. Even if you don't make anything, it's really important to have a space where you can just sit and do nothing. Doesn't matter, like, because everything in London's so fast. It's still really productive just to, if I came to the studio and just kind of sat in my chair and just sat there. I used to have a hammock tied up here, just lay in my hammock and just looked at my pain or just kind of let my mind wander, then that's still a productive day, because you had that opportunity to think about stuff, which is just really important. No one does that.
So you built all of this stuff yourself?
Yeah, I built it alone with like a broken arm.
What?
Yeah, I came off my bike and I really smashed my elbow in. So it still worked. I didn't break it, but it was in a sling for a while, and then I had like a kind of problems with it for like a year or two. But yeah, I built it alone. Don't know how. I just kind of got it up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. How would you define success in the art world for you personally?
How I see success is basically, if you're still making art, then you're a successful artist. Doesn't matter if you're selling it. Doesn't matter what you're doing. As long as you're making work, whatever your medium is, as long as you're doing it, then you're successful. Even if you've not made any work for 10 years, and then one Sunday you start drawing or go to a life drawing class and you start making work again, then you've become a successful artist again. It's just making the work that's important.
Do you feel successful?
Yes, because I'm here in the studio.
Yeah, good. What would you say is your most ambitious dream for your work?
I don't know, the truth really is just for it to be the same. It's been really slowly, gradually increasing. I don't wish for any sort of rapid fame. I just want it to kind of continue to slowly get more and more exciting.
What do you mean exciting?
Just like more and more, a bit more and more interest. Like last week, my first kind of gallery assigned me. That's really exciting. That's like, wow, I'm super psyched about that. And then now they're saying, so I'm taking this piece and this piece that's what I'm going to photograph today to the Affordable Art Fair in Hampstead. That's like very exciting. And they're talking about taking me potentially to New York for an art fair. So that's like, boom, that's exciting. So as long as stuff like that keeps on happening gradually, that's enough for me.
What advice would you give to up and coming artists?
Don't give up. I think that's the biggest divider in, or most artists I know who after graduating, I don't look at anyone in terms of like success of like exposure or exhibitions. It's more just the people who are still making stuff. You think, yeah man, like keep strong, like keep on making. And whenever I meet friends who aren't making anymore, they're just talking about how they want to start making again. And you're like, yeah, just stop making. Like, and that's kind of, for me, it's quite black and white there. I guess I kind of feel like, you know, if you continue to make work for 10 years or 20 years, eventually, I guess someone will notice you and you'll get the exposure that you need. But there's no like magic rule of how long it takes. You ultimately enjoy it. It's like people don't question eating 5 fruit and vegetables a day, or going to the gym because it's good for you, like spending £20 or whatever, 50 quid a month on a gym. So like spend a bit of money a month on your studio and it make you more happy. So that's, I don't know, you just do it basically.
Thank you. Hello again, that was nice, wasn't it? Thank you for joining me for another edition of Art Success with Jacob Eaton this time. If you would like to see his work in person, please do come down to Open Studios. It is between the 2nd and the 5th of June 2016. If you're watching this after that date, then oh well. You can book a studio visit with him personally if that's what you would like to do. His details are below. Please do subscribe to my channel, because by subscribing you get to keep up to date with the latest interviews like this one, plus any of my studio vlogs and art exhibition vlogs. So until next time, take care of yourself. Bye.